podcast for French games. So, I got a French game for you. And being an author of a French book, I would say I've had a number of people from Chessable's Master of the French Defense check out the YouTube channel. And they are aghast at me playing Alekhines and Sicilians and all sorts of things to add variety and flavor. Much like Baskin-Robbins, the Palm Beach Chess Channel believes in many openings. But we got ourselves a French, so without further ado, let's get it on the board. And we have ourselves a Tarrasch. And we get a sideline of the Tarrasch. And I go with this forcing variation. And we're going to end up with this minor transposition type deal. E takes d5. And this is the first key moment. What do you take with and why? And I think a lot of chess players hesitate to make the correct capture here because we have this axiom in chess. Never bring the queen out early, but it's an incomplete statement because you are to never bring the queen out early if she can be attacked, because this is a broader concept about losing time, having to move the same piece over and over in chess. In this case, I'm making a threat, causing white to lose time in some degree. And it's not easy to harass the queen with, say, knight c3 with the other knight already on d2. So queen takes d5 is quite safe. And after knight f3, I go a6. And this is more of a comfort with the structure. This is a feel-good move, a6, more than anything else. Bishop c4, and I go with the square that is typical in Master of the French Defense because I like, instead of queen d6 or queen d8, queen d7 seems a bit more flexible. And after castles, one of those main features of queen d6 versus queen d7 is we have the ability to put the bishop on c5 if the queen is on d7 or d8. But if you compare queen d7 and queen d7 is more active than queen d8 because I'm more than likely going to push the b-pawn, develop the bishop to b7, and our queen is already on a useful square versus just simply going back home and admitting wrongdoing. So that's the overall comparison between the three moves. Flexibility, and that's why I recommended it. Now, after bishop c5, the reason I wanted to show you this game is about to come up. Knight g5, and say, okay, h6, and my opponent goes for broke right now with knight takes e6. So this is a good question. What do you do? This is a good moment to pause your video if you're into figuring things out. Try to figure out first what white's plan is. And then try to figure out what's the best play for black and how you'd play the position. All right? So hopefully you paused your video and tried to figure that out. Now, let's move forward. Well, you gotta take it. You gotta take it. But then his plan is, if you take twice, he's going to play rook e1 and get your queen. So I found this position very interesting because I'm all about imbalances. I'm an imbalanced type of guy. And I could not resist capturing. So I did. And I feel objectively it's the best move in the situation. Now, if this makes you entirely uncomfortable, good, because you need work on imbalances. And I would strongly recommend taking a look at the Game of the Century. If you look up Bobby Fischer's Game of the Century and go through those moves and really understand the game. And I know I've done a long video on the Palm Beach Chess Patreon on it, which was 45 minutes to an hour. And I've done a shorter video on the YouTube channel. So take a look at the Game of the Century for when you've gotten a queen for a number of pieces. So we're about to see it here. rook e1. And a queen is a queen when it has targets. So I want you to pay careful attention how I harmonize my pieces, and for the most part, make sure I don't have targets. So I castle, go ahead and get some development, and I picked up time in the process of my opponent capturing. So let's take stock in the position. Okay, rook for rook, whoop, whoop. Bishop for bishop, knight for knight. So I've got a knight, bishop, and rook versus queen. 3 versus 1. Let's find out. Knight f3, and already I could play knight g4. But I didn't want to jump the gun with attacking because it's too easy to get caught up in the attack, and you get behind in development, and that's how you make targets with your pieces. So I want to finish development first. And after c3, this was one of the minor inaccuracies. I play, well, rook a8, that's fine. But after bishop d2, this next move was where I erred. Knight g4 is going to be better than what I played in the game. And as soon as I made the move, I saw the mistake. I played bishop g4. Now, what is the problem with that move? Well, white has queen b3 check, and that hits the b7 pawn. Am I getting enough here? I'm still attacking. It's a pawn, but it was unnecessary to allow. But my opponent misses the idea entirely, and after this, it's going to be a completely one-sided game. h3, grab, tactics, knight e4. So my rook on f8 is unleashed. The knight, the bishop, everybody's in perfect harmony hitting f2. So again, what's the best capture? Knight, rook, or bishop? Well, the most devastating discoveries are going to come from the rook. So let's go with that one. And after bishop e3, we get ourselves a good old-fashioned 2 knights and 2 rooks versus queen and rook in game. Don't get to say that every day. And what's the plan? What do we want? Well, I look at this position and I say, if I could get my rooks on the second rank, that could be devastating for white. And I don't want to linger around in the position. I don't want to keep my rook weak on f2. So let's go ahead and grab on b2, which also in turn defends my b7 pawn. My opponent plays rook f1. And now, how can we get everything that we want? Well, I want my knight on e4 defended, so my e8 rook could get a lift to get to e2, or say d8 to d2. I want him linked up with his twin to do some devastation. I also need to worry about my king. I don't want any perpetual checks, and I don't want any sort of get in checkmate situation. Knight f6 defends my rook, prepares the lift, gets a knight around my king for extra defense, all things that are good. So after queen f4, e to e2, and notice white would only have one check here. Queen c4 and king h7, and I'm good. In which case, if, say, queen c4, king h7, rook takes f6, looking for something, you can run into trouble over here because I do have the ability to block after takes. And we're definitely in the driver's seat again in this type of scenario. So no need to worry about these types of sacrifices. My opponent plays rook d1, and now check. And I decided to go into 2 knights versus a rook, and I understood that this would be a win, especially if I can get rid of these pawns. And then you don't get to see this type of symbiosis very often with the pieces. So this is another feature of the game that I really liked. The knight protects the knight, which protects the knight, which protects the pawn, which protects the knight. So let's show that in arrows, shall we? Triangle. It's a strong shape. And after king c4, I'm just simply creating a passed pawn on the other side of the board. I got the 2-for-1 special going on, and there's nothing that white can do. My king and pawn are ushering up quite nicely, and white resigned in this position with the inevitable coming. So hopefully you enjoyed this French game, and it in the very least, I should say, whets the palate for my French players out there that are constantly in the comments, and I love you for it, asking for more French games. Well, this one's for you.